Raj had been driving his taxi through the city streets for over 20 years. He had seen it all: late-night passengers too drunk to remember their own address, tourists marveling at the skyline, business people lost in their phones. But the most memorable moments weren't the fares or the destinations. They were the stories his passengers carried with them. One evening, as the rain poured against his windshield, he pulled up to a bus stop where a young woman stood, drenched, holding a small suitcase. She hesitated before getting in, her fingers trembling as she clutched the handle. "Where to?" Raj asked, adjusting the rearview mirror. She hesitated. I don't really know," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Raj had driven long enough to recognize when someone wasn't just lost geographically, they were lost in life. "You must have somewhere in mind," he said gently. She sighed. "I was supposed to go home. But I don't know if I can." Raj didn't press for details. Instead, he simply started driving, weaving through the familiar streets, letting the hum of the engine fill the silence. "You know," he said after a while, "when I first moved here, I didn't know where I belonged either. I spent months driving people around, thinking they all had a place to go except me. Then I realized, sometimes the journey matters more than the destination." The woman wiped at her eyes, staring out the window. "I made mistakes. I left on bad terms. What if they don't want me back?" Raj nodded, understanding. Sometimes the hardest road to take is the one that leads home. But you'll never know unless you try. For the rest of the ride, they spoke in soft voices, sharing small stories, memories, regrets. By the time they reached a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of the city, her expression had shifted. She no longer looked unsure, just nervous, but hopeful. She turned to Raj and smiled, a real smile this time. "Thank you. I think I know where I need to go." She stepped out into the night, her suitcase rolling behind her as she walked toward the front door of a house with its lights still on. Raj watched for a moment, then pulled away, disappearing back into the city streets. Another ride complete, another story shared. And as always, the journey mattered just as much as the destination.